Hoi 13. Excerpts from instructions given in the Master's room. I wait for people who are intent and sincere. It takes people whose qualities are right. This is directly entering the stage of Tathagata with a single leap. Studying Chan requires a straightforward mind and straightforward conduct, direct words and direct speech. Since mind and words are straightforward and direct, from beginning to end, through all the stages there will never be all the petty detailed aspects within them. The ancestral teacher came from the West, directly pointing to the human mind, letting people see their inherent nature and achieving Buddhahood. A monk asked Yun Min, "What is Buddha?" Yun Min said, "A dried piece of shit." If you try to think it over, you've already distorted it and even made it untrue. These days, the brethren have much knowledge and emotional understanding. They have to come here to answer with idle words and with long-winded talk. It is as if you held a priceless, wish-fulfilling gem in the palm of your hand, but when asked by someone, "What is that in your hand?" you put it down the gem and pick up a clump of dirt. How stupid. If you go on in this way, even if you study until the non-existent year of the ass, you won't awaken. Here, at my place, there's no doctrine to be given to people. I just wrap up the case on the basis of the facts. It's just as if you bring a crystal pitcher with you, which you cherish like anything, and as soon as I see it, I smash it for you. And if you bring a wish-fulfilling gem, I'll take it away from you. Seeing you come this way, I'll cut off your two hands for you. Therefore, Master Lin Chi said, "When I meet a Buddha, I slay the Buddha. When I meet an ancestral teacher, I slay the ancestral teacher. When I meet an Arhat, I slay the Arhat." An Arhat, I can't pronounce the word, but I like it, Arhat, is one who has conquered the afflictions of passion and put an end to the attachments of greed, wrath, and ignorance. But say, since Lin Chi is called a spiritual friend, a man of knowledge, why then does he kill people? Look and see what principle of his is. Where is the mistake of the brethren these days who do not realize this as they do their meditation? It's just their wanting to understand him. As for this way won't do, and not this way won't do either, so or not so, neither will do. Which is right? Can you use a turning word to understand? If you can't understand him, then the man of old was too concise and direct. But you don't consent to go to where he was concise and direct to act. It's just because it's so perfectly clear that it makes your attainment slow. Open talk at the invitation of Cha-In Chi-Yi. The Dharma cannot be seen, heard, perceived, or known. If you employ seeing, hearing, perception, or knowing, then this is seeing, hearing, perception, or knowing. It's not seeking the Dharma. Since it's outside of seeing, hearing, perception, and knowing, what then will you call the Dharma? When you get here, it is like a man drinking water. He knows for himself whether it is cold or warm. Only if you personally witness it and awaken to it can you see the Dharma. For a person who has really witnessed and awakened, when a single hair is picked up, he at once can understand the whole great earth. These days, not only Chan people, but even gentlemen of affairs, intelligent, quick-witted, deeply learned men, all have two diseases. Not to pay attention, not to attach to the mind, to things. This is forgetting concerns. When they forget concerns, they tumble down beneath the black mountain of oblivion into a ghost cave. In the teachings, they call it dark torpor. When they pay no attention and when they do pay attention and attach the mind to things, the mind's discriminating consciousness flies around in confusion, one thought after another, the next thought continuing even before the previous thought is ended. In the teachings, they called this excitation. People caught in torpor and excitation do not realize that right where each and every person is one great matter that's neither sunk in torpor nor aroused in excitation. Like the universal cover of the sky, like the universal support of the earth. This great matter existed before there was a world. When the world is destroyed, this great matter won't stir a hair's breadth. Usually gentlemen of affairs are roused in excitation. So, these days, in all localities there is a certain perverted silent illumination, Chan. Seeing that gentlemen of affairs are obstructed by sensory afflictions, so their hearts are not at peace, they teach them to be cold ashes, a dead tree, or a single strip of bleached white cloth, or an incense brazier in an ancient shrine. To act sad and coldly indifferent. But tell me, the man who takes this rest, can he rest too? They don't realize at all. How could you rest if this monkey isn't dead? How can you rest if the one that comes as the vanguard and leaves as the rear guard isn't dead? Last year, on the road to Fukin, this silent illumination teaching style was extremely prevalent. When I went to Fukin in the 1830s to dwell alone in a hut, I tried to dispel it, saying it cuts off enlightenment's life of wisdom, saying that even if 1,000 Buddhas appeared in the world, the silent illumination people wouldn't know repentance. Among them there was a gentleman, Ching Shang Ming. Being very intelligent, he could understand rationally the Buddhist teachings and the Taoist canon and Confucianism, of course. One day he came to my room holding a stick of incense. His anger was palatable, his tone and demeanor stern. He said, "I have a stick of incense not yet burned. I want to get a certain matter understood with you. You have freely denounced the idea that wordless silence is the highest resting place among the Dharma's methods. I suspect you are unable to believe this, because you have never reached this stage. What about old Shakyamuni, closing his doors and not making a sound for 21 days back in Madhaka? Wasn't this the silence of a Buddha? When the 32 Bodhisattvas each expounded the Dharma gate of non-duality, and at the end, when came his turn, Vimalakritri had no words to say, and Manjari praised him. Wasn't this the silence of Bodhisattvas? When Subhuti, sitting there quietly on the cliff, wordless, without speaking, wasn't this the silence of the Sharyaka? When Indira saw Subhuti sitting quietly on the cliff and so showered down flowers as an offering, also without speaking, wasn't this the silence of an ordinary being? When Bodhidharma went from Langed away and sat impassively for 9 years, wasn't this the silence of an ancestral teacher? And so, as soon as Lu Tsao saw a monk, he would face the wall. Wasn't this the silence of a teacher of the Chan school? Why then do you struggle to displace silent illumination and consider it false and wrong? I said, Shang Ming, it's good that you asked. Now wait, while I tell you. If I can't explain satisfactorily, then I'll burn the incense and pay homage to you with 3 bows. If I can explain, then I'll accept your respects. I'm not going to talk to you about old Shakyamuni or the sayings of the past worthies of Chan. I'm going to go right into your house and explain, as it's called, borrowing an old lady's shawl to visit an old lady. So I'll ask you, have you ever read Chuang Tzu? Of course. Chuang Tzu said, "Neither words nor silence are sufficient to convey the ultimate of the Tao, or of things their meaning culminates in neither words nor silence." I haven't read the Ku Hsang's standard commentary or the explanations of the various schools. I'm just going by my own interpretation. To refute this silence of yours. In essence, the ultimate of the Tao and of things lies neither in speech nor in silence. Words cannot convey it, nor can silence. So what you've said doesn't even accord with Chang Tzu's meaning. How could you be in accord with the intent of the great teachers like old Shakyamuni and Bodhidharma? Do you want to know the meaning of Chang Tzu's? Their meaning culminates in neither silence nor speech? It's this. The great master Yunmen lifted up a fan and said, "This fan leaps into the 33rd heaven and taps Indra's nostrils. One blow to a carp in the eastern sea, and rain pours down." If you can understand these words that Yunmen said are the same as what Chang Tzu said, or if you can understand, they are the same. At this point, he didn't make a sound. I said to him, "Though you don't speak, in your heart you still haven't submitted." Nevertheless, the men of old definitely didn't understand by sitting. You just brought up Shakyamuni's closing his doors and Vimalakiri's silence. Well, look at this. In olden times, there was a lecturer called Dharma Master Jiao, who explained that wordlessness to... this is difficult. Ow. All right, come on, calm down, get it right. Have a sip of water. Whew. All right. Who explained that wordlessness... There was a lecturer called Dharma Master Jiao who explained that wordless... Was a lecturer named Dharma Master Jiao who explained that wordlessness to people, saying, Shakyamuni's closing his door in Magadha, Vimalakiri keeping his mouth shut at that place, Subhuti chanting without speaking to reveal the path, and Indira without showering down. God damn it. Whew. I said I'd really take a break, but I'm not going to. I'm obsessed with this object. Okay, get it done. Indira, without hearing, showering down flowers, all these to be understood as spiritual visitations. Thus when the mouth takes them up, it falls silent. How could one say they had no discernment? Actually, they discerned what cannot be said. When this truth suddenly collides with one's spirit, and he arrives unawares where speaking is impossible, though he doesn't speak, his voice is like thunder. That is why Sing Jiao said, "How could one say they had no discernment, since they discerned what cannot be said?" Here, worldly intelligence and talents cannot be used at all. When you reach such a stage, this at last is the place to abandon your body and your life. This kind of realm requires each person to experience and awaken for himself. Therefore, the Hua Yin scripture says, "The Tathagata's palace is boundless, naturally those who awaken are within it." This is the gate of great liberation. All of the sages since antiquity, boundless and immeasurable, without gain or loss, without silence or speech, without going or coming. So in every atom of dust, so in every land, so in every moment, so in every phenomenon. Since the capacity of sentient beings is often narrow and meager, they don't get to the realms of the sages of the three teachings. Therefore, they distinguish this and that, far from knowing that the world is this vast. And instead they go sit in silence under the Black Mountain inside the ghost cave. This the former sages decried as the deep pit of liberation, a place to be feared. Seen with the eye of penetrating spiritual powers, it is the same as sitting on a mountain of knives, or in a forest of swords, or in a boiling cauldron, or in the coals of a furnace. If lecturers don't even get stuck in silence, how can members of the school of the ancestral teachers? If you say, as soon as you open your mouth you fall, right now, this has nothing to do with it. Shang Ming bowed without realizing it. I said, though you bow, there's still something the matter. Come to my room tonight. When he came, I asked how old he was this year. He had said 64. Again I asked, "Where did you come from 64 years ago?" He couldn't open his mouth. I drove him out with blows across the back with a bamboo rod. The next day he came to my room again and said, 64 years ago I didn't even exist. How then can you ask me where I came from?" I said, 64 years ago you couldn't have always been in the Qing family. This one perfectly clear solitary light, listening to and expounding the Dharma right now. Ultimately, where was it before you were born? He said, "I don't know." I said, "If you don't know, then birth is a big thing. This life is limited to 100 years. Until you fly beyond the cosmos, you'll have to go into the coffin with it. At that time, as the 4 elements and the 5 skandhas all at once disperse, though you have eyes, you don't see things. Though you have ears, you don't hear sounds. Though your heart is there as a lump of flesh, discrimination doesn't operate. Though you have a body, you can be burned with fire and cut with knives without feeling pain. When you get here, after all, where does the clear solitary light go to?" He said, "I don't know that either." I said, "If you don't know, then death is a big thing. Thus it's said, impermanence is swift. The matter of birth and death is great. It's the same principle. Here, intelligence cannot be used, nor memories held. Again, I ask you, your whole life you've made up so many little word games. When the last day of your life arrives, which phrase are you going to use to oppose birth and death? To succeed, you must know clearly where we come from at birth and where we go at death. If you don't know, you're a fool." At last his heart submitted. After this I taught him not to sit in wordlessness, and he agreed to come here to meditate. Silent illumination. Old Pang said, "Just resolve to empty all that exists. Don't make real all that doesn't exist." Just master these 2 propositions and your whole life's task study will be done. These days, there's a breed of shaven-headed outsiders whose own eyes are not clear, who just teach people to stop and rest and play dead. Even if you stop and rest like this till 1,000 Buddhas appear in the world, you still won't be able to stop and rest. You'll be making your mind even more confused and troubled. They teach people keep the mind still, to forget feelings, according to circumstances, to practice silent illumination. As they go on, illuminating and keeping the mind still, they add to their confusion and oppression with no end to it. Utterly losing the expedient means of the ancestral teachers, they instruct others wrongly, teaching people to go in vain and wastefully with birth and death. Furthermore, they teach people not to care about this state of affairs. Simply go on putting things to rest this way, they say. When you've stopped feelings as they come and thoughts are not produced, at such a time, it's not unknowing silence. In fact, it's alert and awake and perfectly clear. This kind is even more pernicious, blinding people's eyes. To have people keep the mind still, this is an interpretation produced by holding to the awareness before one's eyes. To have people rigidly stop and rest, this is an interpretation produced by holding to the empty stillness of forgetting concerns. Say that when one has put things to rest to the point where he is unawares and unknowing, like earth, wood, tile, or stone, this is not unknowing silence. This is a view born of wrongly taking too literally words that were only expedient means to free bonds. To teach people to reflect according to the circumstances and take care not to let any bad perceptions appear. This again is an interpretation produced by accepting the skull's emotional consciousness. To teach people just to be expansive and give free rein to their mastery, not to be concerned if mind is born or thoughts stir, since fundamentally there's no real essence to the creation and destruction of thoughts, and if one holds to them as the real mind of birth, and death is born. This again is interpretation produced by holding to the natural body as the ultimate thing. All of the above diseases are not the student's doing. They're all due to the wrong instructions of blind teachers. We'll get to the conclusion next.